Stop it, here it comes.
So what is the group's mission then? Because he told us what the mission is not. What is the mission?
I'll tell you in a moment. I'm going to thank you
Make
guys.
it like them. But if you're going to come here and hang a Trump poster up, we're not all Trump fans.
So I'm good with
No, I'm talking about, I did this,
What about freedom?
I did 2021 in review and what I saw. Freedom. Go ahead, Jason, take it away. Yeah.
Is it havoc?
Freedom of freedom,
Right?
not freedom of manipulation.
There we go.
Once again, as I say quite often, my friends, thank you so much for being here, my beautiful Canadian Truth, Health, Freedom Warriors. Woo. Happy New Year's Day. And I wish all of you, of course, a cycle of reward, growth, and happiness for 2022. And I truly believe it's people like you, as I've said before, my friends, truthers like you, amazing patriots, fighting for freedom. We're going to have a lot of victories coming up. And,
Jason, all right.
hi, thank you too. Thank you for cherishing our path to freedom and celebrating humanity. Again, as I like to say. And again, thank you everybody for not compromising, and I say this a lot too, but hopefully it's worth repeating. Thank you for not compromising your bodily health integrity. You're not allowing a small group of scumbags, Big Pharma, to control your bloodstream and health. And that's what it's all about. You know, my sister's a frontline nurse, a hardworking, compassionate nurse. And there's many of them out there, of course. And she was fired recently. She knew she'd be fired, apparently, from the vice president for VON, Victoria Order Nurses. And she's a healthy nurse. You know, she always said, I'm a healthy person. She studied vaccines for years, right? She doesn't have her kids vaccinated. She knows very rarely do you even need a vaccine. And she knows this is an experimental gene therapy, as all of you know, right? And she said, I'm a healthy person, healthy nurse. Why would I take this, right? So she stood her ground, and again, to that point, everybody, thank you for drawing a line in the sand against just some petty tyrants within our intellectually bankrupt government, correct?
Yes.
Right?
Well,
that's all it is.
Their constitution as well. He came out and said there a week ago he's specifically attacking our freedoms and our rights.
Exactly, but that's why I'm going to get to the solution in a moment, if you allow me. With the Canadian Bill of Rights, there's no loopholes, and we got to just enforce it. But again, I want to give you guys some more thank yous. I want to thank you for being bold, honest, open, and true. Thank you for your resolute courage and conviction, showing your intestinal fortitude, of course. And I had a woman, for example, she came to Queen's Park actually 2 weeks ago. She came up to me, and she traveled all over Europe. And she said in so many words, she literally said that you Canadians, truthers, protest better, more powerfully than anywhere else, the way we stand up for our country. And I believe that, right? And we got over 1 million Truth, Health, Freedom Warriors, as I remind you guys, across Canada. Never feel alone, never feel humiliated, and do not feel demoralized. Yes, we've had our rights and freedoms at times trampled on in Canada, but you got leaders out there, so-called truth leaders, some of them, and they make it sound very demoralizing. We've had even so-called truth leaders at times say we're a communist country. We're never going to be a communist fascist country. We just cannot be complacent. And as you know, one of the sacrifices for freedom, I always say, is eternal vigilance. We got to be hyper-vigilant, uncompromising. I got a lot of, consternation against Chris Sky, but one of the things we can agree on, of course, is you got to be non-compliant, right? And thank you, for example, not wearing the face diapers, the cotton masks over your beautiful faces. You're not going to compromise to that nonsense. And it's, elements of the CIA, some of the financial global predators, they want us masked up for years to come, right? And unfortunately, you got the transportation, the bus systems, the cab drivers, they bought into it, a lot of them. But again, we're going to have a lot of victories, everybody. And one of the victories, I believe by next spring and summer, because of what you're doing all across Canada, we're going to make Justin Trudeau eat his words and his threat and this implementation of the vaccine passport. That just because we're not jabbed, we can't fly across Canada. Are we going to crush Justin Trudeau in that regard? Are we going to go after our intellectually bankrupt government, Justin Trudeau, Doug Ford, John Tory, the bureaucratic health officials? As I said before, are we going to come after them with hard, powerful, peaceful, determined action?
They have treason. They have done treason to the people.
Exactly. This man said they've done treason to the people. What did you just say too? Prison. Yes, we're going to hold them accountable one way or another. And Justin Trudeau, you know, apparently.
Son of Fidel Castro.
Exactly. He, you know, and I've just learned a lot more dirt on Justin Trudeau. I'm not going to speak about it today. But, you know, unfortunately, when this guy speaks, and he probably went through a lot of abuse when he was younger through MK Ultra, the CIA gets to these people, they brainwash, mind control. You know, when Justin Trudeau speaks, he's not a leader, of course. It's corporate talk. You know, I had a friend say, this guy doesn't even talk. Everybody can sense it, right? He doesn't talk from the heart. But exactly. But you guys and gals out there, thank you for trying to sway people's hearts and minds. And as I said before, you guys are an inspiration because many of you are trying to educate others. You're trying to lay the foundation to free people from control, to free them from fear, and from the servitude and bondage of slavery. And, you know, the great Dr. Shiva just did 2 live streams back to back. I back up this guy because he's a real deal. He's in Massachusetts. He talked a lot about slavery briefly. This is a new form of slavery. Am I correct on that? You know, with big tech, they want you masked up, separated, behind glass. We're seeing the first phase of
control.
Exactly. We're seeing the first phase of transhumanism right now.
Transhumanism.
Animal husbandry.
Exactly.
I work on a farm. So
excellent.
that's how you treat the cattle.
Exactly.
Especially the nano robbers that are.
I just want to read a quote here, if I may, my friends, again.
And in Sweden, they came out with microchips to tie to the vaccine passport.
Wow. Really?
They already charging. It's $113 if you want to get your chip.
Tommy's picking that up. What you said on the camera. Can you say that again, just in case people didn't hear? What you say?
Yeah. So in Sweden, they actually rolled out microchips that are going to be used as a form of proof of vaccination.
You have to pay for yourself.
That's what they're hoping.
It's in mainstream media.
No, people are paying for it. $113 each, US.
Wow.
So they can be conveniently passported.
Well, this is what we need to remind ourselves, I think, my friends. Look at real history. Malcolm X, right? A real hero, a real patriot over there in the United States. And we can learn a lot from some of the citizens in the United States as well, of course, too, because like us, they're amazing fighters, and they've had to be. Malcolm X said, nobody can give you freedom. Nobody can give you equality or justice. If you're a man, you take it. Do you agree?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we got, you know, and with the women, I said before in a speech, everybody, that between 1900 and 1950, I don't want to look like Michael Jackson the moment, that's not my intention. I'm trying to get the other glove on, even though he's a great guy in some ways. But in 1900, 1950, there was almost a revolution in the United States. You had about 150 million people around the world that protested for their rights and freedoms. And in the United States, it was actually started in the late 1800s by women in shirt factories. They were fed up with the hideous work conditions, the slave labor, the 18-hour work days, right? And they marched the streets. And Dr. Shiva shows you they were ferocious. And I said in a speech before at Nathan Phillips Square, it will happen in Canada, it can happen, and of course the men joined them. And that's when the elites, they got so scared. They, you know, this intellectually bankrupt government, the deep state, the shadow government, they never want a bottoms-up movement. They're terrified of a grassroots bottoms-up movement. And that's why you have a lot of controlled opposition. I'm not going to name names today, but we know in Quebec, here in Ontario, they put a lot of controlled opposition because they know that you guys have the power. We're capable of a real bottoms-up movement. You guys show it every day in your marches. But we can have almost like a revolution, I believe, in Canada. It'll take a little bit of time, but we're going to explode these protests, particularly when spring and summer comes, I think, again, and they're very afraid. They're afraid of your power, everybody. You guys make the difference. Never forget that, each and every one of you. Am I right? Am I correct? I want to hear something.
Yeah,
good.
Once they tell people they're starting their next series of doses for the year.
Exactly. Pardon? Non-compliance, exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
They're already talking about series of doses. This is just the first series they went through.
Yes. Well, you know, to your point, the great Dr. Shiva, I got a picture of him. He owns 7 companies. He dealt with big pharma. He's got a PhD from MIT, 4 degrees, the best of the best. And I'm going to show you, if I may, 1 sec, my friends. Where is he? Oh man, I got so many pictures here. I need some help. Where is he? Where's Dr. Shiva? Shiva! Oh no!
There we go.
Find him. Thought I had him. I didn't bring him. Shit.
Oh well.
Dr. Shiva. Sorry, guys. Dr. Shiva. He owns 7 companies, and he has an amazing innovation, powerful technology called Cytosol that maps out viruses on a computer. And he shows you that the drug companies, they're burning and tanking. Big pharma are declining. They've been crashing and burning, losing money, particularly the last 10 years, really for 15 years, right? Because it takes a lot to get a drug on the market these days. When the FDA who are pro-big pharma, but they don't want the drug companies sued, right? So they put in regulations, and that put big pharma in a real conundrum. Don't listen to that man. For every dollar the drug companies used to spend, for example, they'd get 10 cents back, 10% return. Now for every dollar the drug companies spend, they're down to a penny. 1.18%. Dr. Shiva shows you the charts. I got them at home. So the drug companies are tanking. And here's another example. Pfizer in 2016, 2017, their top line revenue was $65 billion. A lot of money, right? But by 2020, they dropped to $41 billion. They lost almost 40% of their revenue, $25 billion. So what did they do? They needed a cash infusion. Dr. Shiva shows you it's all about the stock market, right? The investors in big pharma. Pfizer went to Israel, and Mr. Yahoo, the president of Israel, he sold his people out to Pfizer. He's the marketing partner for Pfizer, and they got data sharing. Justin Trudeau, apparently he's the marketing partner for Pfizer. People are telling me he's made millions and millions of dollars from Pfizer right now. And I just learned he owns a biotech company as well, making hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion. I'm going to look into that more.
Who's that?
But Justin Trudeau, Steve boy, pardon? Thank you, exactly. He's funded millions of dollars by China, as I was just told. So, again, the drug companies are tanking. So my point is, everybody, you can do it. They needed the jabs. They need vaccines because they're growing at 18% compounded annual growth each year from vaccines. And now Pfizer, in the first quarter of this year, they made up that money. They made they went from $41 billion to $82 billion. So it's all got to do with the money. I'm not an expert. Dr. Shiva's an expert, though, and other doctors, and they show you we don't need the jabs. It's got nothing to do with immune health. Thank you again for not compromising your bodily health integrity, everybody. It's all about natural immunity, good exercise, vitamin D, of course, the sun, right? Good nutrition, stress good nutrition. And lastly, everybody, I just want to say, Canada, we're capable again, almost like a revolution. And in the United States, between 1900 and 1950, they put so much fear into the elites that 98% of diseases, of course, disappeared then. Right? This is real facts. And the elites had to give in for good sanitation. That's how we got all the gains today. Good nutrition, good hygiene, right? And we got, this was 15 years before the measles vaccine even came into play. 99% of measles was gone, eradicated. And any frontline nurse will tell you that viruses are generally, they burn themselves out. You get a blip here and there, but again, you rarely need a vaccine. And then when you sit down with your doctor,